Google, if you Google images of Sun Myung Moon, and you can get these, it'll give you hundreds and hundreds of pictures. And connected to each picture, I've mentioned this before, connected to each picture, the pictures come from either newspaper articles or magazines or something connected to our movement. It goes into the internet and it finds anything that was connected to Reverend Moon. So sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's not so nice. But this is from Adam's fall, the first substantial object to be found by God since Adam was lost. It is lamentable that today there are no saints who understand Jesus' heart as deeply as Jesus understood God's heart. It is difficult for us to do what we hear and see. Can you imagine how the heart of God has been, who has toiled for 6,000 years in wordless hardship? So, the essence, the very essence of the unification movement and the entire purpose, in my understanding of our movement and the teaching of the principle and Reverend Moon's life and his purpose in life, is to teach the heart of God. The very meaning of true parents is true parents are true parents because they bring the heart of God. Not a theology of God, or not the intellect of God, or not the judgment of God, or the power of God, or all of those things are meaningful and important, but the deepest, most profound and important element is the teaching that God is our eternal parent, and we are the sons and daughters of this God. And that God's situation, because of the fall of man, was very, very difficult. So, what I want to do today, we're going to watch, it's less than 15 minutes, but it's a report by the pastor, our pastor in California, about witnessing and about recent activities in Brazil. And I watched it, even it was after midnight last night, I watched it twice myself. It's very short, but it's very profound and very significant. And it connects to True Mother's words. And I'm going to also, after we watch the video, we're going to share, I'm going to share with you True Mother's words, March 7th in Las Vegas. And it directly connects to this explanation about witnessing.
Time to listen to this video. This is a report from Korea, a little more detailed than I gave on the other Sunday at Sunday service, about a breakthrough that's happened in Brazil. Right now in Brazil, there are many people joining at this moment. Now, what makes this report even more significant is that True Mother looked at all of us national and international leaders and said, I want all of you to learn from the Brazilian situation and take it with you back home. And she also said that if you're willing to change, miracles can happen. So I myself am totally committed to change the way I was approaching small groups, and I took Mother's directions very seriously, and I found the national leader. I took him aside and I interviewed him for almost 2 hours. And so what you're about to see is the summary of that 2-hour conversation. Now, on one sense, when you see this video, you're going to notice that there's not a lot of new things about this, but it's really the way he did it, not what he did. And maybe that will, what I'm trying to say will be more apparent as you go through. But be patient as you go through this whole content, and you will see they just apply these very simple principles Anybody can do it. This is so incredibly simple to do. He said it took him almost 2 years to convince his congregation to do this. But once they did, they just got so excited, and just so many people are joining now there. And actually, the growth is exponential. It's growing more and more. So let's begin. So there's 3 main topics that he covered, which is number 1, small groups. Number 2, the way they witness. And number 3, their very specialized one-on-one divine principle. Now, in the past, we've done these things before. I'm sure you saw those 3 and say, well, there's nothing new there. And some small groups have worked, some have not worked, some are good at some things, some are good, at others, and vice versa. So really, it's the tiny details that sometimes make the biggest difference. An Olympian that runs a 100-meter and a champion high schooler is not that big of a difference, but takes incredible amount of training and all little details to make that difference, which turns someone into an Olympian. So it's really the finer details that made their breakthrough. So let's go through them. First of all, there are small groups. Now, he was talking about all these, I'm really summarizing everything he was saying. But he's saying if you miss one of these points in the small group, his experience is the small groups go for a little while, people get bored with them, and then they end. But if you keep all 5 of these points, with one of them being the most important, he found that people were very excited about doing small groups, and they kept it going. Okay, number 1, to have prayer and singing is some type of worship component, especially prayer. He also talked about the social time and time of connection and becoming friends together. He said, you come together because of geography and you're close, but he said you also want to make it happen naturally, come with friends or do the hobbies that you like to do. Number 2, read God's Word. They use Chansangyang, or a really great book is the World Scripture 2. That's also fantastic. Now, he said when they read God's Word, they don't read much. They spend a very small amount of time reading. He said it's very important. You don't need to read a lot. This is not like Morning 100K. Now, this 4th point, he said, is the most important point and is what made the breakthrough happen. Having a weekly internal goal that's not just, I'm going to love people, but really challenges your fallen nature, your limitation, and then the group holds you accountable and supports you on this goal. Now, just like way back in the time, you think about it, doing something like MFT, it's a pretty grueling experience, every day, day after day. But it was that internal goal in meeting God and having God work in our lives that kept us going. And in fact, when we think of our incredible experiences, sometimes we go, well, 20 years ago I had this experience. Well, the amazing thing is they're applying the exact same thing we were doing on MFT. The difference is God worked in their lives last week, or worked in someone in a small group last week. So he really, really emphasized this point, that this is what makes the small groups really electric, and where people can have breakthroughs in their relationships and challenge their fallen nature. And also in this environment, they always invite new people. They don't have them hear divine principle first. They first invite them into this type of small group. The important point is the internal breakthroughs. Very important to meet weekly. He said you can't meet monthly. It doesn't work. You need to have that rhythm. And because what happens, after time, you get vulnerable and you become friends and be able to share everything. And that's why he said you have to meet every week. And meet by location and or by your hobby or by friends. Now, small group really is in the subject position. Sunday service is in the object position. But he said the way that people in Brazil mostly we're going to Sunday service, and small groups was like a side thing. But he really emphasized that Hoondok Family Church is more important. Not because you shouldn't come to church, it just simply means that that is where the priority is. That is where the connection is. That is where the fellowship happens. Friends of faith and real bulk of the church experience is happening. Because Sunday service, by design, is not a place where a lot of deep fellowship can happen. It happens on a larger level, and what the man from Brazil said at Sunday service, that everyone is listening to one person where God can speak through one person very powerfully. He said in a small group that you create a space where God can really speak through everybody, and we can create a powerful listening so people get heard and understood. So the combination, now you've heard me say these kind of things before in Sunday service, but to hear him reiterate those things that I felt in my intuition, I was really inspired by. So that concludes the small group. Number 2 is the witnessing. Once people have internal breakthroughs in their small group, and he said that first you have to have internal breakthroughs with people in general, and then husband and wife, and having all the limitations. And as you know, that when you tend to do the same habits you do over and over and over and over and over again, but it's not until someone holds you accountable that you can break through these things. So breaking through with husband and wife, and then also losing our temper with children, or being angry with children, and having breakthroughs with our children. He said, on that foundation, then on your personal breakthroughs, then you can have breakthrough in witnessing. Because you have something to share, you have an experience, you broke habits that were just, years and years old. And then spiritual life is very fresh. He said on that foundation, it's very easy to witness. So, many times, one thing he says, we're living in 2 worlds. We have our work world, our social world, and then we have our church world. And he said those 2 worlds are usually, discouraged, and really the people who break through have a certain personality or certain a profile to do that kind of work. And so then we have these, people who really break through witnessing, and the majority who have a hard time doing it. He said, if you really are having breakthroughs in your small group, and then you share those experiences, you listen to people, and you do it with friends you know. And so then your world, your work world, your dentist, your person at the grocery store, and your church world become one world because of the Hoondok Church and because of your experience with God that's always happening. And that way you're sharing, and he said, everybody's life is a mess. He said, all you have to do is really listen to people, and people will share, and then you share your experiences. And he said, don't invite people to hear Divine Principle. He kind of held up a paper. He said, usually say, hey everyone, look at this book. This, this ideology will change your life. He said, don't do that. Come to the small group first. They have an experience reading parents' words, having a breakthrough. Then they'll be interested in listening. So new people come to the small group, and then they're going to want to hear Divine Principle. He said, don't give Divine Principle early. He said, wait for the time when they really want to hear it. And they'll be wondering, hey, I want to know more. Then the third and final last piece, and this is really interesting, which is one-on-one Divine Principle. He found that 15% of people joined through the workshop experience. So he didn't mention this, but I know in CARP, American CARP, and also in Russia, a very good witnesser was witnessing about 600 people to find one. The average witnesser we found in Russia and America was about 1,000 to 1. 15% of the people ended up joining. Now in Brazil, he's finding 60% of the people are joining, but not only 60% of the people are joining, way more people are coming this way. Now this is very unconventional, so open your mind and listen. What they do is it's not rocket science. The new person reads the red part, and the member reads the blue part. And they just go back and forth and back and forth. And they mix it with Q&A, with discussion, with life application, internal guidance. So it's not like you hear a lecture, then have group discussion, but all of it is mixed within. And it's one-on-one experience, not in a workshop. So there's no need for a star lecture. There's no need for a workshop site. There's no need, because all of it can happen right now. You can meet a person, and they come to small group, and if they're interested, they can find out right away. So, and what he found is that members get empowered. Members get really excited because they feel, oh my God, I can do this. I don't have to wait for this, star lecture to come by. And even new people, here's what I found out of everything he said was the most interesting. As soon as people finish the Divine Principle, now it can take a month, up to 3 months, to finish it all. But he said that the new members are now trained to do it. And they do it with their friends right away. I mean, out of everything I heard, I think that is the most radical thing. He said new people are teaching their friends immediately, which is amazing. Because then they get inspired. They're teaching the principle. They're sharing what they were inspired by. So basically, that is everything in a nutshell. Again, the great thing is everybody can do this. It's if you go through this video again, basically you'll see you can start this right away. And remember, his mother said, if you're willing to change, miracles can happen. Let's all unite together with Mother, and let's make a...
Why did I show that for Sunday service? Well, because it touches the very core of who we are. And what is it that the unification movement intends to do for mankind? And basically, if you really listen, if you go back and listen to what he's talking about, especially the part where we have to bring together the concept of church or our religious life and our real life, okay? Reality and faith, faith and reality, internal, external, mind and body. The unity of the two is about sharing our relationship with God. What do we have that no one else has? True parents. Who are the true parents? What is it that they brought to us that is special and unique? God's true love. The true, unconditional, absolute love of God that can solve everyone's problems. The correct understanding of who was Jesus. The correct understanding of the fall of man. Where does fallen nature come from? How can we solve the problem? The correct understanding that someday all of us are going to go to the spiritual world, and if we don't make our relationships right here, we will be forced by the nature of reality to deal with our relationships there. Especially if people, when people commit heinous crimes or they hurt another person dramatically or seriously, rape, murder, whatever, that person dies. It doesn't end there. That's not the end of reality. The reality is that two people have a broken relationship with God and within themselves and with each other. And someday, that broken heart, that broken relationship has to be mended. It has to be fixed. Forgiveness, love, growth, spiritual growth. Because everyone is destined to become happy and to find joy and happiness. And the only way to find a life of true joy is to have relationships of true love. So when he's describing these small groups, what he's talking about is How much are we capable of making friends with other people? How much are we willing to step out of our comfort zone to share what God has blessed us with other people? And especially this week, I had such a deep experience because Takai Schultz and the Schultzes on Friday night, we had a game night at their house. And there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guests came to their house. 7 of them, or 6 of them, or 5 of them came for the first time. And it was a very natural, it was very wonderful. Ron Papalardo came, and he brought some of his games, and Sharon and I were there. And then the neighbors from Takai, Jennifer came with her 2 kids, and then a guy named Robert came with his wife, and their kids came, and Connor was, I guess he's, 16 years old? And then the adults, we played Ticket to Ride at one table, and Ron took the kids, and he was teaching them how to play Ticket to Ride at another table, and we were sharing, and we were eating food, and we were talking, and we were chatting, and Sharon Pace was mentioning stuff about UPF, and it was very natural, and it was very comfortable, and it was fun. It was nice, because I got to play games, and I like to play games. That's the concept of small group. We have to have small groups, or we have to meet with people. As he said, you meet with people based on some kind of interest or hobby. The word hobby was there. Something that you naturally like to do. Nobody wants to go out and witness. Like he said, going out on the street. If you go out on the street, you pass out pamphlets. If you're the right kind of person, you can find joy in that. It's fun. I think Gene is the kind of person that he can go out, like he's done it at school. And it's great. There's nothing wrong with it. That's a great way to witness. But it's not for everybody. But all of us are supposed to, we're all designed and created by our eternal parent God. And we have a talent or an interest. It might be, reading books. It could be music. It could be sewing. It doesn't matter what it is. But what God is asking us to do, and what True Mother is asking us to do when we read her words, is essentially she's wanting us to go out and share the love. Ultimately, the concept is that people will naturally become curious and interested. Why am I so comfortable here? Why am I having fun here tonight? Well, you don't seem like a person that's going to judge me because of my sexual orientation or because of the color of my skin, or you seem very comfortable about, your faith or about the concept of religion and blah, blah. We are people who have an incredible capacity for big thinking. And we forget how much we live outside of a box compared to the normal world. So this is the breakthrough that's being talked about. So let's look at True Mother's words. Recently she was speaking. She says, nowadays, thanks to social media and the internet, you can know everything in a matter of seconds. However, if you have your spiritual antenna up and pointed toward true parents, you can know what and how they are doing even more quickly, can't you? When True Father was alive and spoke publicly, he was often introduced with the title Reverend, or in Korean, Moon Chungji. Is that Mother is making the point that she is, in a way, stepping away from, like, the political, social, kind of organizational interests or concerns. And she is adopting the name founder, meaning that she is more like in a position to be an advisor. And when you think about it, true parents aren't supposed to tell you every day what you're supposed to do. We as parents learn, as our children get older and older, that the time comes when they are going to make their own choices, their own decisions. And what we as the parents hope and pray that we did, while we did have them as our children, was to instill in them a certain standard of goodness. And also, they have to know how much we love them, how much we are always their parents. We're always going to love them. We always support them, and we care for them, and we'll be there if they need us. But ultimately, every person has to make their own unique, direct relationship with God, even without us. My daughter Shauna, my daughter Kiva, there's only so much. Every one of us is unique and special. So when I read this, I see this as being very profound and very deep. And this is really what's happening. True Father is in the spirit world. He is not on this earth anymore. Things have changed. Things are different for our movement. And it's good. It's in a very good way. So we have to adjust our own way of thinking. We have to take more personal control and share with people what we have. I have established a good system through which I can educate you, and also I can help you to share all materials and results throughout the world so that all blessed families can fulfill their responsibility. No one should be able to say that they couldn't accomplish their responsibility because they were ignorant or ill-informed. I have opened the way for all of you to be able to fulfill your responsibility even more than 100%. Now, it is all up to your own efforts and results to establish the tradition of distinguished, noble families. You remember the 2020 motto that I gave you, let us become true owners of Chanilguk by practicing true love in resemblance to the Creator, our Heavenly Parent. What does that phrase, let us become true owners, really mean? The path of becoming a true owner means becoming one in heart with true parents and handing down the tradition of Heavenly Parent and true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind. I am sure that you have heard that often that you should accomplish your mission as the tribal Messiah. With what heart should you do that? You must think as if all people are your children. If so, and they are suffering and living in hell, can you leave them alone while only you go to heaven? Of course not. This is really the crux of who True Father was, and why he worked so hard, and why he did the things he did. The most unusual, different human being that ever walked on the face of this earth, in my humble opinion. The things he did, out of this world. You know, he created so many different organizations connected to music, connected to entertainment, connected to sports, connected to media. Oh, and a unification church, a new religious movement that began from the country, a country that was unknown until after the Korean War, that has spread throughout the world. Centered on what? Centered on a profound and deep understanding of the heart of God and of the truth of God. True parents have brought us true love. And now, True Mother is saying that's the essence of it. When we think about entering into the kingdom of heaven, you know, the reason why Father taught us so many times, you know, Abel cannot go into the kingdom of heaven without Cain. Abel can't go to heaven without Cain. You have to save your Cain. You have to witness. You have to bring 3 spiritual children. You have to become tribe. What is it all about? It's about nothing less than if God blesses you, you have to turn around and give that blessing to other people so that they can share the same happiness and joy that you have. That's what witnessing is. And when everybody turns around and does that, and people start hurting each other and abusing each other, because they will not benefit from it, they only hurt themselves, then the kingdom of heaven will suddenly be there. And we will all be able to enjoy and be comfortable in the kingdom of heaven with each other. That's why Abel has to save Cain. Because they're brothers. They're brothers. And Cain is the person who doesn't get it yet. And Abel is the person who understood it first. But there's nothing in, their value isn't different. It's just a certain order of understanding and relating to God correctly. Someone learns something about God first, and he naturally turns around and wants to share that to help his brother or his sister to deal with their situation. That's what the kingdom of heaven is about. The kingdom of heaven is the place where we live, where we feel completely comfortable, peaceful, happy. You can kick off your shoes. You know, you can lay back and relax. You know, you can walk around with your bathrobe on and your gut hanging out, and you don't care what people think about the way you look, you know. You're at home. You know, you burp when you want to burp, whatever. Of course, you know, we naturally don't do those things because we don't want to, you know, create a bad environment for each other. But the point is, the heart, the spirit is you feel, you know, you can breathe, you can relax. You don't have any fear. You're not worried about someone taking something from you, or someone coming up from behind you, or someone tricking you into doing something that you don't want to do. That's not the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is the place where there's a family, where true love. That's what we're trying to achieve. We are indeed lucky people and incredibly fortunate. The problem is that we sometimes live without recognizing the grace we have received. You were reborn as a blessed family, and having met true parents, and you have received their direct education. Don't you think this is something to be happy about? Still, when we think about the grace we have received from God and true parents, in comparison with how much we have been able to return, we feel we have been so insufficient. This reality may not be fully apparent while we are living on earth, but in the spirit world we will all come to see clearly the full results of the life we lived on earth. At that time, I don't want any of you to experience pain and regret because you belatedly realized that you didn't take the path of loyalty and dedication before heaven during true parents' lifetime. Maybe some people could read this and think this is judgmental, or this is threatening, or this is, you know, accusatory. But if you really read this, True Mother is saying, you know, I want you to know how blessed we are. True Father and True Mother, the true parents, have given us the truth and the love of God. And now, can you embody that? Can you share that with people? The whole idea of small groups, the whole idea of witnessing, the whole idea of one-to-one divine principle, it's nothing less than how much can we become a light that shines bright so that when other people look in our direction, they'll see something and they'll want to have give and take with us. It's about give and take, centered on love and truth and beauty and goodness. It has to become natural. On my way here, I stopped by the construction site of the International Education Center and Peace Palace. When we started that project, many of our neighbors opposed us severely. I was pleased to hear that now those who had opposed us have stopped doing that as they see the construction going well. When the building is completed, you should be more responsible. You should proudly show who we are to the people of the world. As time goes by, we will prosper more and more. In many Christian churches, the majority of the congregation is getting older and older, isn't it? We must be different. That's why, on the occasion of the first anniversary of Foundation Day, I gave scholarships from the Wanmo Pyong-ae Foundation to 1,200 students all over the world. They are our future. They will be our talented leaders within 3 to 4 years. This was big news in Korea, and many people in the political, economic, and academic fields were surprised by the news, which continues to be covered in the media. The times have changed. We should also change, shouldn't we? We have a big hope. I guess you have heard the saying that the more happiness you share, the bigger your own happiness becomes, right? With big blessings comes big responsibilities. God expects that you can fulfill that responsibility by exercising your own free will. In other words, it is really up to you, not myself, to work hard to successfully conclude all the things that True Father wanted to establish here in his final years. In fact, I am very tired. I have a blister on my lip, and I have had no time to rest. But I had to come. The foundation here has been established by the blood, sweat, and tears of true parents. Now is the time to make your contribution count. You shouldn't lead your life like you did yesterday. You must think of today and tomorrow as a time of great hope and possibility. I am telling you now that we should all change from now on. Amen. So for me, this is very uplifting, very positive. And yes, the details of how to make small groups work, or witnessing or teaching the divine principle, but the difference is between the word teaching and sharing. Sharing with other people. Having give and take, not from the position, I'm up here and you need to understand this. If you don't understand what I understand, you're going to go to hell. That kind of vertical, but it's more horizontal now. Very horizontal. The vertical is true parents. But what is coming from true parents? It's not a judgment, it's not criticism, it's not anger, it's not resentment, it's love, it's support, it's encouragement. We've done this. We are the true parents. This is how we lived our life. Now what about you? Can you become like us and live your life, always having experiences with God? And especially, that brings me to this point. It talks about the most important point in the 5 groups was the internal goal. What does that mean? And then he described when we were on MFT, life on MFT was very difficult, but we had these internal breakthroughs. It goes back to what I was talking about last week. When God winks at you, when God winks at you, when you have this very subtle, very interesting, very profound, and very deep experience, a coincidence that happens. And, that's the internal breakthrough. All of us are supposed to meet God every day. That's why he's explaining that our church life and our real life have to become one. Because the true parents didn't come to establish a new religion. Yesterday I went to the Christian bookstore, Lifeway bookstore at Crossroads Plaza. And I went in there to look at books, and oftentimes I'll go in there and I'll go to the section, current events, and I'll look at all the books about the cults. And I'll try to read and see what they're saying about us. It's just interesting to me, to look at all these different points of view. But I looked, and there's one book that they had out there that's it's New York Times bestseller, and they're really pushing this. And the book is simply called Jesus is Greater Than Religion. And it's the front of the book is the word Jesus, And then the mathematical sign, you know the mathematical sign that goes like this, that means greater than? It has Jesus, and then it has the mathematical sign, and then it has the word religion. So I thought, well, this is a good start. This is really the direction to discover that it's not about the religion, it's about the person of Jesus, of who he was. Now, as I opened the book and I began to read it, I realized that as long as people hold on to this concept that Jesus is God, or that Jesus came to die and Jesus is going to come again in a supernatural way, and some people are going to go to hell and some people are going to go to heaven, then even if you connect to Jesus that way, you're still limited. It's still not going to liberate you to be able to have unconditional love for all people. But when people discover the correct understanding of the heart of Jesus, as in True Father's quote, you know, to know Jesus correctly, then to try to live and practice a life, you know, what would Jesus do? How would Jesus love? How would true parents love? How does God love? When we try to live that way, that's where we will discover God. So let us be people of great hope and confidence, and let us really pray. But he made the point, very deep point, that the small groups are in the subject position, and Sunday service is in an object position. And he explained, you know, here I am, I'm standing up here, and all of you are sitting there, and I'm saying, I'm teaching something. And it's great, it's wonderful, we learn many things. But the point about small groups is that all of us in a small group, we're all sharing intimately with each other and becoming friends. It's about becoming friends and having friends and sharing, you know, the uniqueness of our life. I know from my experience of going over to the Schultz, going over to the Savage's house, whenever, you know, Frank is around or whenever there are guests, it's such a wonderful feeling, you know, to be able to be there naturally with each other. And I hope and pray, you know, all of the students, you know, at Duke or wherever you're a student, you really need to make friends. You really need to be friendly and be making friends with the people around you. And don't, you know, this is where we have to really be careful. This is where religion creates the problem. True parents taught us a very high standard, an extremely high standard of true love. But it's a standard that almost none of us can directly reach. And if we make the mistake of allowing the standard to come between us and people we meet on the street, expecting, you know, or judging them or looking at them like, oh, you know, you're that kind of person, you know, I'm living this way. That's a great error. Because what's being described now, and the way God really works, God never judges people. God never has, you know, criticizes anybody. If anybody makes any effort to try to go in a direction of goodness, what is God's response? Does he, at the moment you turn and you try to go in a good direction, do you think he'll throw in your face, oh yeah, you're doing it now, but yeah, what about last week? What about last month? Or, oh yeah, I see this, I've seen this before. You're going to try again, and then, you know, next week down the road, you're going to screw up again. I've seen it. Do you think God has that kind of attitude? No. God doesn't, it's not a part of God's thinking. That's satanic thinking. That's fallen thinking. That's evil thinking. That's disruptive. That's destructive. The moment a person begins to look in a direction toward God, God just, his eyes light up. Yeah, you know, yeah, you can do it. You can do it. You know, he's just Mr. Positive. Mr. Positive. You know, the most positive, confident being in the whole world in existence is God. And yet, if anyone has a reason to be angry or resentful or frustrated or impatient or to believe that you're going to fail. It's God. And yet, this same God who has seen it all has the capacity to unconditionally, without reserve, give true love. Unconditional love. That's what unconditional love is. Unconditional love is not the same as unconditional forgiveness. Forgiveness is conditional, actually. If you really want to receive forgiveness, then you have to say you're sorry for something you did wrong. But God's unconditional love is always available. He's always ready to love. And He is loving. But we have to take responsibility to reciprocate, to become people who can have give and take with that kind of love. And I appreciate so much, these words from True Mother and these words from our brother, George. Yeah. And if, this is touching the very essence of our life of faith. Our life of faith. What is our life of faith? It is that we are meant to become channels of God, God's love. So we have to go out and share. We have to find the things that we like to do. And then our challenge is we have to do them, but not do them by ourselves. Do them with other people. And that should be not so difficult. So our religious life and our real life are coming together. That's what will create the kingdom of heaven on earth. When the spiritual side of life and the physical side of life come together, mind and body unity, the internal and the external. And that's when I hear this report about small groups in Brazil, and when I hear True Mother's words, that's what comes out to me. That this is what God is asking of us. Become like we were. Because things have changed dramatically now. When we read True Parents' words, and we know True Father is not there anymore, they take a different type of dimension. They take a different type of reality. Our Heavenly Parent God, thank you for these words and for our True Mother, her sharing with us, her heart and her inspiration. And we can see that as time goes on, even though our true parents have given us so much, they are hoping and expecting that we would have learned the lessons and we can grow and we can become your true sons and true daughters. And we can share the blessing that we were given and the opportunity that we had to be with true parents. We can share the essence of it, the core of it with other people. And ultimately, all roads lead to the divine principle, because the divine principle is able to correctly explain about your heart of true love and about your purpose of life and how we are meant to grow physically and spiritually while we're alive on the earth, and that we're destined to live together eternally in a world of spirit. And that if we don't grow up here, then we will grow up there. But it's better. It's much more important and better for us to make the conditions now so that we can find joy and happiness in our future life in the spiritual world. Thank you for your incredible patience with all of us. Every day, you're so patient and so loving and so supportive, and we don't even know it or see it. But you're working all around us. Help us to recognize the small ways that you work in our lives, and that you have nothing but confidence and nothing but encouragement, nothing but hope for each one of us. Thank you again and again for bringing us together in this place, and that you gave us the opportunity to meet our true parents and to learn directly from them. And now it is up to us to embody that and share it with our friends and our neighbors. And yes, even sometimes people who are our enemies, we might confront people, we might witness some kind of evil action that we have to get involved with, but help us to be involved in a way that we can help people to change and to grow. Thank you very much. We offer our prayers to you collectively as a congregation and as one family under God, under true parents, and also myself, John Pace, and Sharon Pace. As a Blessed Central family, we report these things. Amen and adieu.